First up, Bloody Roar 3. Now the Bloody Roar series is a series nobody talks about. It's been years since the last game, and when it comes to fighting games, Bloody Roar is never brought up, ever. Which is a shame, since I think the series is pretty underrated. At least the first 3 games. The 4th game isn't very good. But what made Bloody Roar stand apart from other fighting games at the time was the fact that you can transform to beasts during battle. And while Bloody Roar isn't the most in-depth fighting game you ever play, it's still pretty fun and worth checking out if you're a fan of 3D fighting games. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing the Bloody Roar series come back someday. I think it's long overdue. Next up, Capcom vs. K2. Capcom vs. K2 was on my top fighting games list, for good reason too. The game offers the best from Capcom and SNK. It's a shame we never got a 3rd game though, although I think I know why, since Capcom made a lot more money off the game than SNK did. Which is a shame, since I don't think SNK gets enough credit compared to Capcom. Especially nowadays, I think SNK definitely makes better fighting games today than Capcom does. I mean, King of Fighters 13 is great. I've always liked it better than Street Fighter 4. And even King of Fighters 14, the new one, is really good too, even though, 14 obviously didn't have as high a budget as most fighting games. But it was still a lot better than Street Fighter 5, I think. So I think Capcom's definitely lost their way when it comes to making great fighting games. But even so, Capcom vs. SNK 2 is a classic and always will be. Next up, Dead or Alive 2. Dead or Alive 2 was a launch title for the PlayStation 2. And it was just a port of the Dreamcast game. And I think the game still holds up. Still a lot of fun to play. After this, the series became exclusive to Microsoft though, until Dead or Alive 5. But I think the game still holds up, and I've always liked the Dead or Alive games. They've always been well-made fighting games, and they still make great fighting games today. So definitely check them out if you haven't already. Dragonball Z Budokai 3. Budokai 3 is one of the best Dragonball Z games, and I think it still holds up. They did make an HD collection, although they removed the original music from the game, because the composer had a long history of plagiarism, which is always unfortunate, so you might want to pick up the PS2 version instead. But even so, Budokai 3 is still a really good Dragon Ball Z game and worth picking up. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi. I think this was actually one of the first Dragon Ball Z games I ever played. And the difference between this and the Budokai games was the fact that the game let you fly around the battlefield, and the arenas were a lot bigger, and it was, you weren't stuck on that 2D plane, which I think is actually pretty neat, even though the fighting in the game doesn't have a lot of depth, and I think the game is too easy. I remember playing this game on the hardest difficulty setting, and still not much of a challenge. And I used to have 2 and 3, but I don't have them anymore, so one of these days I'll have to pick them up again. Still worth picking up though, if you're a fan of Dragonball Z. And I actually like this better than the two Budokai games, personally. Fatal Fury Battle Archives Volume 2. This is a nice collection of the Fatal Fury games. I don't have the first volume though, but this is still worth picking up, especially if you're a fan of old school 2D fighting games. It's a nice collection, so check it out. Next up, Guilty Gear X, another Dreamcast port. I've always liked the Guilty Gear games. They're really good 2D fighting games, although the new one is 3D, but still really solid. But overall, one of the better fighting game series out today, I think, and still holds up today. So if you want to get into the Guilty Gear games, I think Guilty Gear X is a good place to start. Guilty Gear X2. Now, Guilty Gear X2 was also on my top fighting games list, so it is one of the best, I think. And X2 is often considered to be the best in the series. It's the same great metal soundtrack from the original game, and still worth coming back to today. So yeah, pick it up if you haven't already. Next up, Kengo, Master of Bushido. I actually really like this game. It's a lot of fun to play. Very early PlayStation 2 game. So Kengo is basically like the spiritual successor to the Bushido Blade games on PlayStation. And even though Kengo isn't as fondly remembered or appreciated as much as the Bushido Blade games, I think it's still a lot of fun to play, especially if you're a big fan of samurai fighting games. So it's definitely worth picking up, I think. They did make quite a few sequels. I don't know if they all came out in the US though. I think the last one was on Xbox 360. But I haven't played any of the sequels. This is the only one I've played. But I'll have to check them out sometime. But from what I've played, I like it. So I'd say pick it up, especially since you can find the game dirt cheap nowadays. So check it out. Next up, King of Fighters 98. Now, King of Fighters 98 is often considered to be the best entry in the series, and this is a great port of the game. It also has the original arcade version on here, but Ultimate Match is basically like a remake of King of Fighters 98. So it's definitely worth picking up if you want to get into the King of Fighters games. I think this is a good place to start, since this is just another classic 2D fighter. So check it out if you haven't already. King of Fighters 2000, 2001. King of Fighters 2000 was released when SNK was going bankrupt. But if you can't get enough of King of Fighters, this is worth picking up. King of Fighters 2002 and 2003. Another solid collection if you can't get enough of King of Fighters. PlayStation 2 really was the best platform to pick up King of Fighters games. King of Fighters 2006, aka Maximum Impact 2. I think this is actually the second or third 3D King of Fighters game. I don't know why it's called 2006 in the US, probably because the original Maximum Impact wasn't received very well over here. But either way, before, if you were to play one 3D King of Fighters game, this was the one to play. But now that King of Fighters 14 is out, it's probably not the case anymore. Although if you want to compare 2006 to King of Fighters 14, I think it's worth picking up. And honestly, I think 2006 is a pretty underrated entry in the series. I think it's really solid. You know, even though it's in 3D, it's still, you know, King of Fighters. What more can you ask? King of Fighters 11. King of Fighters 11 is another great entry in the series. One of the best in the series. There's 98 and 11 must-haves for the PlayStation 2 when it comes to 2D fighting games, I think. So check it out.